So, I have one of the most dramatic sister-in-laws that you will ever hear about. Get this. She wants to have this giant destination wedding, but she's saying that everybody has to pay their own way to get there. I can't afford it. I'm not in that position. Well, I tell her, hey, I'm sorry, but I can't go to your wedding. Guys, she absolutely goes bridezilla mode, freaking out on me, and you won't believe what she did.
Have you ever been the type of person who prefers to save money rather than spend it on expensive stuff? It doesn't matter why you decide to save the money, but the point is it's your goal. Well, I'm that type of person. My second question is whether or not people have scoffed at you for doing it, telling you you're stuffy and too serious. Well, that happened to me too, and the culprit is my sister-in-law. See, I've been the type of person who saves a lot of money. I grew up in a working-class family that did their best to save money and not struggle, but it was difficult when they had kids to support. Because of this, I decided that the best course of action for me was to save up money for a house and a car, and have savings before I even had children. This was assuming I ever got married, because I had to meet the right person. After I went to college on a scholarship, by the way, I got a job at a medical office. Here, I met a man named Tyler. Tyler is working in the medical office as well, just across from the one that I work in. At first, we were just flirting playfully with one another. It did not intend to be anything serious, but then he asked me out. It had been some time since I went on a date, so I decided to heck with it. I'm gonna go, because it's not gonna hurt anything. The two of us ended up having a blast. We stayed out really late, and he even insisted on walking me to my car. From there, our relationship started. Well, it was around a year into the relationship when he asked me if I thought it was a good time to move in with each other. While I did want to get married, I thought it was too soon, and honestly, living with somebody before you got married was a good idea. In my mind, at least. So the two of us planned to get an apartment together. Within 2 months, we were now living with each other, and we were closer than ever, to be honest with you. On our 2-month anniversary, Tyler decided to propose to me, and I accepted it right away. I can't begin to tell you how happy I was to get married. Now, from the moment our families found out that we were getting married, everybody was thrilled. The issue came with my future sister-in-law, Margo. I always thought that she was a little extra and dramatic. She was more extravagant than me and could be snobby. Her parents raised her and Tyler in a middle-class lifestyle, so I don't know where this behavior came from. Anyways, she has an idea that our wedding had to be huge. A big dress, a big venue, and just big everything. The bigger, the better was in her mind. However, this was not something that appealed to me at all. All I wanted to do was a small wedding. See, Tyler, I had already talked about this before. After he proposed, we started talking seriously about our future. The two of us were going to have a small wedding and try our best to spend the next few years saving for a house. Then and only then would we start trying for children that we always wanted to have. This was something Tyler and I established early on in our relationship. When we told Margo our plan to have a small wedding rather than a big one, she was outraged. I have no idea why she was so angry, because it wasn't her wedding. She told me I was going to be making the biggest mistake of my life if I did not have a big wedding. Then I was going to regret it, because according to her, a woman always wanted a big wedding. This was just a well-known fact. No matter how many times she told me this, I simply would not go to change my mind at all. I knew that I was not going to want such a wedding. A small wedding was going to be perfect. It was all Tyler and I wanted, to be honest, and for our honeymoon, we were just going to go to a cabin in the mountains for the weekend. Simple, yet very romantic, and honestly, I could not wait to be able to spend a weekend with Tyler. Then came Monday, when we would go back to our regular lives, and there was honestly nothing wrong with it. Margo kept warning me that I will regret it. It got to a point where I just told her to drop it. When I said this to her, I did it in a soft tone, so she could not think that I was yelling at her or anything like that. However, she still took it very personally. Tyler must have said something to smooth her over, because come the day of our wedding, she was fine, though she kept judging everything. My dress wasn't fancy enough, the venue was too small, the food was too simple, and everything was not up to her standards. When I look back at the pictures, I don't think of any of that. I'm filled with this sense of happiness because it's the day that I was finally able to marry the man I love. If Margo did not like my wedding, so be it. It was my wedding, not hers. To me, weddings are just a one-time event. Why send a couple $1,000s on one day? The same went for buying an expensive wedding dress. So the wedding did go off without a hitch, and so did the honeymoon. Well, when we got back, we finally started working towards our goal of getting a house, and now I knew this was going to take a while because the housing market was a wreck. All the houses were expensive, so if we were going to have a chance of getting a mortgage, then we need to save up a decent amount of money for a down payment. If you're thinking that my dear sister-in-law did not approve of this, then you would actually be correct. She did not understand saving every cent for a house. Or at least, if we were going to save, then we could at least open some credit cards and buy things using that. I don't know how long I stared at her, trying to think of something to say when she said that. It was safe to say I was in shock at Margo's words. Why did she keep insisting that we live her kind of life? I didn't know specific details, but I knew that she did have some debt. Her parents weren't so rich either, so they could only do so much to help her pay off the debt. While I did get her warped mindset, it wasn't the way Tyler and I wanted to live our lives. She even went so far as to accuse me of brainwashing my husband, forcing him to live a life of no fun. Tyler shut this down because it was a ridiculous thing to say. Tyler was his own man, as I was my own woman. The two of us might be married, but we were also our independent people. So, the years passed, and Tyler and I continued to live our lives. Margo, my sister-in-law, kept being her usual dramatic self, acting like it was life of a fairy tale. I used to warn her that having such an attitude about life was going to do her no favors. If anything, it was going to cause her a lot of trouble in the long run. But you know what? She refused to see any sort of reason. According to her, well, I was just a hater. Anyways, it's ridiculous, but like I said, she was a huge drama queen. So I just brushed her off and continued to ignore her. Sure, I still saw her at family events. However, I still spoke to her. I just had to let her words roll right off of me. It was the easiest way to deal with things like this. About 3 years into our marriage, my sister-in-law finally mentioned that she was getting married. I was a little surprised because she had only been dating her boyfriend Thomas for 6 months. Tyler and I were dating for 2 years before he proposed. Well, 6 months did not seem long enough. They didn't know each other beforehand, but this was her life. So if she wanted to get married to Thomas, then I thought so be it. It was her life, not mine. When we finally got the invitation to the wedding, I was expecting it. My sister-in-law and I had our issues, but I still wanted to support her at the wedding, you know. So the intention was that we were going to go until we learned that it was a destination wedding. Margo was expecting everybody to pay their own way. Yeah, we're talking going to an island wedding that they were putting on because it was already so expensive enough. However, I'm sorry, we just could not do this. We cannot be a part of it. So, anyways, Tyler and I were trying to save for a house, and if we ended up going to this wedding, then, well, we'd have nothing left. My sister-in-law did not take this lying down. She demanded that we were to go, and if we did not, then we would be cut off from her life for good. The rest of the family started to put pressure on us too, telling us that we have to go, and there's not a choice. This is because we're talking about family, and when family is involved, you know, you did whatever you had to do to make them happy. Honestly, I thought this was a little bit twisted, and I quickly brushed them all off. I did. I told them that we were going to send a gift and a card, but that was all that we could honestly do. Well, Margo told me to shove the gift where the sun doesn't shine, and said she wanted nothing from me if we did not show up at the wedding. Well, she also called me a bunch of names, but there's no point in repeating them. The last thing I said to Margo before I got off the phone was that she and her husband should consider having a local wedding because it wasn't worth the spending so much money on what was one day out of their life. What if an emergency came up or something? However, Margo did not have any of it. She told me to bounce out of here, and it's none of my business. What happened next was pretty disappointing. My mother-in-law and father-in-law ended up being turned against us by Margo. A lot of family turned against us because the way Margo was telling it, we were jealous, and that was why we weren't going to the wedding. This could not be further from the truth, guys. I wasn't jealous of Margo at all. It was just not worth it to me to waste the money. I'd still get them a gift, which was what Tyler and I were determined to do. There was nothing more that we could do than this, though. Well, Tyler seemed distressed, and his family cut him off, but he told me that they always treated Margo better anyways. She was the baby of the family, the miracle child. I know she had health issues when she was younger, and she did nearly die. When her parents ended up doing, she created a monster. I was perfectly fine with not going to the wedding because it seemed like my sister-in-law thought it would be a punishment for us to not go. But she was wrong about that. I didn't care. Even if I signed on to social media and saw how much they were having, it didn't matter. The only part about this that I was regretful about was causing an issue between him and his parents. He just reminded me that this was a losing time battle. If it had not happened now, then it would have happened sometime later. It's safe to say that's when Tyler and I eventually had children. We wouldn't be having Tyler's family meet them. Update number 1. After the wedding, sister-in-law kept spamming our social media. Hey guys, the wedding went off without a hitch, and my sister-in-law had a good time. If you're wondering how I know this, well, let me tell you that's a good thing to ask. I did not go to the wedding, which was a destination wedding on some beautiful, expensive island. The reason we did not go is because we were saving for a home. The good news about this is Tyler and I are getting closer and closer to be able to buy one. But this was about my sister-in-law and not the house I'll be able to put a down payment on. So, the reason why I knew my sister-in-law had a great time is because she kept trying to tell us by tagging us on social media. Most people have social media, and the same goes for me. Tyler and I mostly use social media to keep up with family. However, Margo decided to use this to her advantage. She starts tagging us. But when this did not get any reaction, my sister-in-law starts to private message us. It was fine at first, but I was annoyed that I kept getting pings and alerts from her. I suppose I could delete my social media, but I used it to stay connected with family that did not live in the area. So I didn't want to do this. The only thing I could think to do was block my sister-in-law on literally every platform. When she realized that I did block her, she starts doing the same to Tyler. He was eventually forced to do the same thing I did. When my mother-in-law and father-in-law got wind of this, they started asking us why we were being so cruel to sister-in-law. Tyler told them that we were getting sick of being spammed with pictures and messages. According to them, Margo, we were angry that she was expressing her happiness and joy. This was not the issue at all. The only reason we were blocking her is because she kept personally reading out to rub these pictures in our face, as if they bothered us, which they did not, I might add. My sister-in-law could go ahead and post the pictures from her wedding all over. If I happened to come across one or two while I was scrolling through my social media, I would have just thought, oh, that's nice, and then I would just go on with my day. It was so childish for my sister-in-law to rub it in my face. This also made her delusional because she was operating under some assumption that I was jealous. Come on. By seeing these pictures, I would be overtaken by jealousy, and I would not be able to function. At first, I felt a little pity because I knew it was not a good idea for my sister-in-law and now new brother-in-law to spend that much on a wedding. However, all I felt at the moment was annoyance. With Margo now blocked, my hope is that she would back off. She did say that she was cutting us off, so why could not she just stick to that and make everybody happy? Update number 2. A year later, we have a home. Hey guys, well, I know it's been about a year, and there was no need to pop in to give you an update till now, because nothing happened. After Tyler and I blocked Margo, we did not hear from her at all. It was amazing and truly peaceful, and I enjoyed this break. Choosing instead to focus on working, hanging out with my husband and friends and just enjoying life. If you're wondering why I'm bothering you with this update, well, it's because I'm happy to tell you that we now have a house. After spending years saving up money, we could finally afford a down payment. Of course, first we need to find a home, which we did after looking at a few places. It was a one-story, single-family home that had 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. It had a nice fenced-in yard and just looked perfect to raise a family in. So, about 2 weeks ago, Tyler and I were finally able to move in. And there are still a lot of boxes around the house, but we're slowly unpacking. I have no idea if Tyler's side of the family even knows if we have gotten a house. We haven't talked to his parents or sister at all, and as for the extended members of the family, conversation has been limited and we just speak with them when we do. Tyler makes sure that they only get a certain amount of interaction time. Well, they would go back to my father-in-law and mother-in-law to spill the beans about what and how we were doing. It wasn't like I wanted to cut them off. If they just came to us and apologized, then I would welcome them back with open arms. Nobody wanted to cut off family like that. However, they would not only need to apologize for their current behavior, but also because of how they treated Tyler his entire life. He always felt like he wasn't good enough for his parents no matter what he did. It just wasn't good enough. It was always Margo this and Margo that. Well, a person could only take so much of this crap before they get sick and tired of it and fed up. So, I was the middle child with a younger brother and an older sister, and my parents always treated us the absolute same, no matter what. They even started treating Tyler as a son, which made him very happy. It was even more important now that his relationship with his parents were on the rocks. I did fear that Margo was going to somehow find out that, well, where we lived and just show up out of the blue. I totally saw her doing that. It was going to disturb the new home that we created. The two of us have only been living here for 2 weeks. I mean, well, could we at least get a break into the place before she decided to start her crap? Tyler seemed to think that Margo was not going to come by and was just simply done with us. She was probably off, living her life somewhere and, well, I don't know, spending money that she doesn't have. I did hope that she was able to somehow pay for that expensive wedding. The entire total of the wedding was not something of which I was aware. It was probably a couple of $1,000s, possibly over $10,000. How anybody could spend that much on one day is beyond me. Well, I wasn't trying to judge people who did decide to spend $30,000, $50,000 on a wedding. You know, this is their right. The difference with my sister-in-law is she didn't have the money to do this. I know she took out some kind of loan to pay for it, which was why she was so insistent on people paying their own way. Update number 3. Sister-in-law came for a visit out of the blue. The last update I gave was about how Tyler and I were finally able to get the house of our dreams. Now, when I posted that, I thought that was going to be the last update I would ever have to give. I never thought that I would be back here ready to rant about my sister-in-law Margo, who's finally made an appearance. Yes, you've read that right, and believe me, I am very angry. I thought I was done with her, and then there was this knock on my door. When I opened it up, I see Margo standing there. So my first question was how she even found out where we lived. She said that she had a friend who lived on this block and saw us moving in. Margo did not clarify who this friend was, which made me mad. Then I just asked her what the hell she wanted. So my sister-in-law explained that she and her husband Thomas were not doing well. They took out a big loan to pay for the wedding, but were now unable to pay for the loan. The reason for this being is that Thomas got into a car accident, resulting in a lot of medical bills. It also led to him losing a job and going on unemployment while he tried to get disability. Well, if I knew one thing about unemployment, it was that it did not pay well. With only Margo working, it would make sense that, well, they were having trouble paying off the loan. I told her I was sorry because I did not know what else to say. It truly was a shame that this happened to her, but I did tell her so. When Margo failed to tell me what she wanted, I once again asked her what she wanted. It was then that she told me that she needed money. She asked her parents or in-laws, but they were both working-class families and didn't have it to give. My first reaction was to burst out laughing when I finally processed what she said to me. Margo gasped, obviously offended, but I was quick to remind her about what I said. None of this was my problem. I warned Margo about doing something like this, yet she went against my advice and was now finding herself in a no-win situation. So I told her to leave me alone, and I shut the door in her face. That's right. She starts banging on the door even louder, but eventually left when some of the neighbors came out to see what the issue was. While she did leave, I knew my sister-in-law was going to be back. There was no way I had gotten rid of her. So to teach her that I wasn't going to help her under any circumstances, I decided to print a sign on my printer. It said, "You reap what you sow." I put it in a picture frame and then hung it on my front door. When Tyler saw it, he bust out laughing. He said it was going to make his sister really mad, but he was completely supportive of that. If anything, she deserved it. And sure enough, Margo did show up the next day. I happened to be working from home that day, so I heard her shriek from the inside of the home that she starts banging on the door, demanding I help her. My response was just to turn up the music, put my headphones on, and ignore her. Eventually, Margo left, but she told me that I was not going to get away from treating her like this. I was family, and it was my duty to help her out. Well, I did want to point out that she was the one who decided to cut us all off, but there was no way I was going to open up that door. Update number 4. Final update. Hey guys, well, yeah, I'm back. The last time I posted here was a few days ago telling you all about my sister-in-law, who came crying to us for help. You see, she got herself into a little pickle because of a loan that she took out to pay for the wedding because of a sudden medical bill that came up. This was something I kept warning her about, but she refused to even see reason. After showing up at my door twice, we didn't hear anything, but the silence just made me feel more nervous because I felt like she was planning something, you know? On the night of our housewarming party was when Margo decided to show up. Tyler and I did not invite her or any of his family members. She must have been asking her friend who lived in the area to keep an eye out, which honestly is very, very creepy. Didn't she have a life or something? It made it seem like she was super obsessed with us. Well, on the day of the housewarming party, we were in the backyard just enjoying the nice weather. Tyler was cooking on the barbecue, and it was just a great day to be able to have the party in the brand new home that we worked so hard for. Soon Tyler and I were going to start trying for children, but we were keeping this to ourselves for now. We didn't want to say anything until we were sure that I was pregnant. It was just before we were about to eat when I heard the sound of Margo shouting at me. I looked over and saw her trying to climb over the fence. Sadly, the fence was not that high, and Margo was able to climb it eventually. Once she was in our backyard, she starts to rush over to me. But Tyler was able to react and grab onto his sister. She was a lot smaller than him, so he subdued her. I took this time to grab my phone and call the police to say somebody was trespassing. They showed up and tried to tell Margo to leave. If she left, then, this wasn't going to be a big issue. However, I knew Margo was not going to just leave. Spoiler alert, she didn't. What she ended up doing was fighting the police officers and even threatening them. Let's just say it wasn't long before she was arrested. Come to find out, my sister-in-law spent the weekend in the county jail because she could not afford bail. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were absolutely furious. It was my fault, so I should pay for it, but Tyler shut them down right away. Under no circumstances were we going to pay anything because it's not our job. She did this to herself by literally trespassing onto our property. I'm not sure what's going to happen to her and her husband. I do feel sorry for Thomas because he did not ask for this. All he did was marry a woman and try to please her. This seemed to be his downfall. Well, like I said, if Margo just listened to my advice all those years ago, then maybe things would not end up differently. Well, however, I'm no longer going to even think about her because she's not worth my time and energy. Remember what my sign said? It said, "You reap what you sow." And Margo really did reap what she sowed.
So Margo is one of those people who are just completely off the hinges. I mean, not only did she make OP's life just heck to deal with, the fact that she showed up, throws this massive fit, and gets arrested for causing a scene, it just goes to show how out of there she was. Guys, I want to know exactly what you would have done if you find yourself in OP's position, having to deal with Margo, having the relationship with Tyler, and just everything that was involved with this story. Would you have handled it the same way, guys? Let's talk about it in the comment section down below. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every single day. And if you guys want to be a part of these daily drama readings, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel. Also, check out my other channels as well. We have Mr. Reddito Animated, we have Mr. Reddito's Revenge, and you can find these two channels by typing them in the YouTube search bar. It'll pop up, just type in Mr. Reddito's Revenge or Mr. Reddito's Animation. Guys, have a great day. Make sure you subscribe to all three channels, that way you never run out of stories. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. And of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.